Some women dream of falling in love with a prince. Peyton never dreamed of falling for a king whose kingdom was built on secrets, power, and blood. But destiny has a way of rewriting every plan you've ever made, especially when it arrives in a $5,000 suit with eyes like Arctic steel and a voice that could command armies into silence. Peyton Richardson had always believed in three things: hard work, honesty, and staying in her own lane. At 28, she'd built a modest but respected career as an event coordinator for high-end corporate functions in Manhattan. Her world was spreadsheets, seating charts, and ensuring that millionaires had the right vintage of champagne at their galas. It was predictable, safe, exactly what she wanted after growing up in a chaotic household where stability was a luxury her family couldn't afford. The Crimson Room was supposed to be just another job. An exclusive art auction benefiting some foundation she'd never heard of, hosted in a converted warehouse in Tribeca that had been transformed into a temple of modern luxury. Crystal chandeliers hung from exposed steel beams, and the guest list read like a who's who of New York's elite, though Peyton suspected many of them had wealth that came from places polite society didn't discuss. She was adjusting a floral arrangement when she felt it. That electric shift in the air that happens when someone truly powerful enters a room. Conversations didn't stop exactly, but they changed. Voices dropped, postures straightened, eyes tracked. Oskar Medvedev walked through the entrance like he owned not just the room, but the entire city block. He was 42, though he could have passed for younger if not for the weight of authority that sat on his shoulders like an invisible crown. Tall, broad-shouldered, with sharp Slavic features, and hair the color of dark wheat swept back from a face that was almost too perfect to be real. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Peyton's car, and he moved with the kind of confidence that came from never having to wonder if he was the most dangerous person in any given space. Two men flanked him, built like brick walls in expensive clothing. Bodyguards, obviously. But it was Oskar who commanded attention without saying a word. Peyton forced herself to look away to focus on her clipboard. Important people were her clients, not her concern. She'd learned early in this business that the less you noticed, the longer you lasted. "You are the coordinator," the voice came from behind her, accented, deep, and far too close. She turned and found herself looking up at Oskar Medvedev. Up close, he was even more imposing. Those eyes, pale gray like winter morning fog, studied her with an intensity that made her feel simultaneously seen and dissected. "Yes, I'm Peyton Richardson. Is there something you need, Mr. Medvedev, Oskar Medvedev?" He didn't extend his hand. Russians of his generation and status rarely did with strangers. "The seating arrangement, I will need adjustments." It wasn't a request. Peyton pulled up her tablet, professional smile in place. "Of course." "What adjustments would you like?" "I am currently seated at table 7. Move me to table 3 across from the stage, and ensure Dmitry Volkov is moved to table 12 near the exit." Peyton's fingers hovered over her screen. Table 3 was reserved for the foundation's biggest donors. Table 12 was essentially Siberia in event terms, the spot you put people you had to invite but didn't actually want to see. "Mr. Medvedev, I'm not sure I can." "You can. Or I can speak to your employer. But that would be unnecessary drama, yes. I prefer efficiency." There was something in his tone that told Peyton this wasn't about ego or preference. This was about something else. Something that made the hair on the back of her neck stand up. She glanced at her tablet again, then at him. Those gray eyes held her steadily, and she saw it then, just for a flash, not cruelty, but calculation. This was a man who thought 5 moves ahead in every interaction. "I'll make it happen," she said quietly. The corner of his mouth lifted, barely perceptible. "Smart woman." He turned to leave, then paused. "And Peyton, if anyone asks why the changes were made, you tell them it was at the request of the Foundation's board." "Understood." She nodded, and he walked away, his bodyguards materializing beside him like shadows. The rest of the event went smoothly, though Peyton couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Several times she caught Oskar's gaze from across the room. He wasn't staring exactly, just observing. Like she was a problem he was working out in his head. When Dmitry Volkov arrived, Peyton understood why the seating change mattered. Volkov was another Russian, probably mid-50s, with the kind of face that had seen too much sun and too many surgeries. He smiled too wide, laughed too loud, and when he saw his table assignment, his expression went cold. He scanned the room until he spotted Oskar at table 3, and something passed between them across the distance. Not quite hostility, more like the recognition of predators circling the same territory. The auction itself was magnificent. Peyton had coordinated dozens of these events, but she'd never seen bids climb so high so fast. A Rothko went for $8 million. A sculpture by some artist she'd never heard of fetched 12. And through it all, Oscar sat quietly, bidding with subtle nods, winning 3 pieces without ever raising his voice or his paddle above shoulder height. It was after the auction, during the cocktail reception, that everything changed. Peyton was near the bar, confirming tomorrow's breakdown schedule with the catering manager, when she heard raised voices. Not quite shouting, but in a room this refined, anything above a murmur was practically a scream. Dmitry Volkov stood near the sculpture garden, surrounded by 4 men who looked like they'd been poured from the same mold as Oscar's security team. But Volkov was staring at Peyton. "You," he called out, smiling in a way that made her stomach turn. "The beautiful coordinator. Come here, please." Every instinct told her to refuse, but she was working. She pasted on her professional smile and approached. "How can I help you, Mr. Volkov?" Such politeness. His English was heavily accented, and he stood too close, invading her space in a way that was just subtle enough to be deniable. "Tell me, did Oscar Medvedev request the seating changes tonight?" Peyton's mouth went dry. She remembered Oscar's instructions. "The changes were made at the request of the Foundation's board, sir." Volkov laughed, a sound like gravel in a disposal. Of course they were." He reached out and touched her arm, and Peyton's entire body. "You are very loyal. I appreciate loyalty. Perhaps you would like to coordinate an event for me. I pay better than Foundations, much better." "I appreciate the offer, but I'm booked for the next 6 months," Peyton said, stepping back carefully. "Shame." Volkov's eyes traveled down her body in a way that made her feel like she needed a shower. "Such a shame. A woman like you should be treated like art, precious, protected, not working like common labor." "I enjoy my work," Peyton said, her voice harder now. "The lady said she is not interested." Oscar's voice cut through the space like a blade through silk. He appeared beside Peyton so smoothly it was as if he'd materialized from smoke. His presence was a wall of controlled power, and suddenly Volkov's men didn't seem quite as imposing. Volkov's smile didn't waver, but his eyes went cold. "Oscar, I was just offering the young lady a business opportunity." And she did. Oscar didn't touch Peyton, didn't even look at her, but she felt sheltered nonetheless. Protected. The room had gone quiet. Not obviously, but in that subtle way where everyone pretends they're not paying attention while hanging on every word. Volkov spread his hands in mock surrender. "No disrespect intended. I did not realize she was under your protection." "She is under no one's protection. She is a professional doing her job, and you are preventing that. Perhaps you—" "I believe your driver is waiting." It wasn't loud. It wasn't even particularly aggressive. But the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Volkov's jaw tightened, and for a moment Peyton thought she might witness something terrible. But then Volkov smiled again, that same too-wide grin. "Of course. Early morning tomorrow, you understand." He nodded to Oscar, deliberately ignored Peyton, and walked toward the exit, his men falling in behind him. The room slowly Oscar finally looked down at Peyton, and she saw something in his expression she hadn't expected. Concern. "Are you all right?" he asked quietly. "I'm fine, thank you for intervening, but I could have handled it." "I am certain you could have, but you should not have to." He studied her for a moment longer. "Volkov is not a good man. If he contacts you, you will tell me immediately." "I don't even know you," Peyton said, finding her spine. "Why would I do that?" "Because he is dangerous, and I am more dangerous. And unlike him, I do not prey on women who are simply trying to do their jobs." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a card, heavy cream stock with embossed lettering. Just a name and a phone number. "Keep this. Use it if you need to." Before she could respond, he walked away, leaving her standing there with a business card that felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Peyton should have written the whole night off as just another strange event in a city full of strange events. But she kept the card, tucked it into her wallet where it sat like a ticking bomb for 3 days, until Dmitry Volkov called her office. "Miss Richardson, I hope I did not make you uncomfortable the other night," he said, all charm and oil. "I would like to apologize properly. Dinner, perhaps. I know a wonderful restaurant, very exclusive." "That's not necessary, Mr. No apology needed. But I insist, tonight, 8 o'clock, I will send a car. I'm sorry, but I'm not available. Tomorrow, then. I'm not interested in dinner, Mr. Volkov, but thank you for the offer." Silence on the other end, just long enough to be uncomfortable. "I see you have made your choice clear, unfortunate. Goodbye, Miss Richardson." He hung up, and Peyton sat staring at her phone, her hands shaking slightly. It was just a dinner invitation. Just a pushy rich guy who couldn't take no for an answer. Nothing to worry about. But that night, when she left her office building in Midtown, she noticed the black Mercedes that pulled out into traffic 3 cars behind her taxi. And when she got home to her apartment in Fort Greene, she saw the same Mercedes parked across the street. She stood at her window for 20 minutes watching it. No one got out. No one approached. It just sat there, dark and silent. Peyton pulled Oscar's card from her wallet and stared at the number. This was insane. She didn't know this man, didn't know what calling him would mean or what doors it would open. But she knew what not calling him might mean. She dialed the number. It rang twice. Peyton. He said her name like he'd been expecting her call, like he'd been waiting for it. There's a car outside my apartment, black Mercedes. It's been here for 20 minutes. License plate. She rattled it off and she heard typing in the background. Volkov's men, stay inside, lock your doors, I will handle this. Handle this how? Maybe I should just call the police. And tell them what? That a car is legally parked on a public street. His voice was calm, reasonable. The police cannot help you with this. I can, trust me. I don't trust you, I don't even know you. Then trust that I have more to lose than you do. Volkov. He is testing boundaries, seeing how far he can push. If I do nothing, he will push further. So I will do something and the car will leave and you will be safe. Do you understand? Peyton's heart hammered in her chest. What kind of world do you people live in? One I did not choose, but one I have learned to navigate. Lock your doors, Peyton. I will call you in 20 minutes. He hung up. Peyton checked her locks, closed her curtains, and sat on her couch with her phone in her hand, watching the clock. 18 minutes later, the Mercedes pulled away from the curb and disappeared into the night. 2 minutes after that, Oscar called back. It is handled. They will not return. What did you do? I reminded Volkov of certain agreements we have, certain lines that should not be crossed. Your safety is now one of those lines. I didn't ask to be in the middle of whatever this is between you two. I know, but you are, and now you have a choice. You can pretend this never happened, wait and hope Volkov respects boundaries, or you can accept that you need protection and allow me to provide it. Protection. What does that mean? It means you continue your life as normal, but you are no longer alone in it. It means my people watch from a distance, ensure no one bothers you. It means you have my number, and if anything feels wrong, you call. And it means... He paused, and she heard something shift in his voice, something almost human. It means I will not allow harm to come to you, not from Volkov, not from anyone. Why? Why do you care what happens to me? Silence, long enough that Peyton thought he might have hung up. Then, because you did not deserve to be pulled into this, and because when I look at you, I see someone who still believes the... I would like to preserve that belief. It is rare. Peyton closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on her. If I agree to this, what do you want in return? Nothing. This is not a transaction. This is a responsibility I am choosing to accept. Everyone wants something. Perhaps, but what I want you cannot give. So instead I will settle for knowing you are safe. Is that acceptable? Against every instinct that told her to run, Peyton heard herself say, but I don't want your people inside my life, watching from a distance only. Agreed. You will not see them, but they will be there. And they were. For the next 2 weeks, Peyton went about her life with the strange knowledge that somewhere in the shadows someone was watching. It should have felt invasive, creepy. Instead, it felt like being wrapped in an invisible shield. She coordinated 3 events without incident. Volkov did not contact her again. The mysterious cars disappeared. And then Oscar himself appeared at her office on a Tuesday afternoon, unannounced, wearing a navy suit and carrying an expression that managed to be both apologetic and commanding. We need to talk, he said when her assistant showed him in. Somewhere private. Peyton's stomach dropped. What happened? Nothing yet, but there is a situation developing and you need to understand it. Do you know a restaurant called Volna? Russian place, very quiet in Brighton Beach. No. We will go there now. My car is waiting. I have work. Your assistant has already rescheduled your afternoon appointments. I took the liberty. Peyton stood, anger flashing. You can't just rearrange my life. I can and I have, because if I do not explain what is happening, you will be operating blind and that puts you in danger. So you can be angry at me in the car, or you can be angry at me in your office, but either way, we are having this conversation. Choose. I'm billing you for my time. His smile was brief but genuine. Fair. The drive to Brighton Beach took 40 minutes in traffic. Oscar's car was a black Maybach, all leather and soundproofing, and his driver navigated through the city with the practiced ease of someone who'd made this trip 1,000 times. Inside the quiet cabin, Oscar explained. Dmitry Volkov and I have history. We both operate in similar territories, serve similar functions for similar organs. Normally, this would mean cooperation, division of territory, mutual respect. But Volkov is ambitious and stupid, a dangerous combination. He believes he can expand his influence by challenging mine, by taking what I protect. And I'm what you protect now. I didn't sign up for this. No, you did not. But the moment Volkov saw me intervene on your behalf, you became a symbol. If he can get to you, he proves I am weak, that my word means nothing. Eaton stared out the window at the passing city. So I'm a pawn. No, pawns are expendable, you are. He paused, searching for the word. You are something I have chosen to keep safe, regardless of strategic value. That makes you different. Why? He turned to look at her, and in the close quarters of the car, Peyton was struck again by how intense his presence was. Because when Volkov touched your arm, I saw your face. I saw fear, yes, but also defiance. You stood firm, and I thought, this woman has strength that most of my men lack. It would be a crime to allow that strength to be crushed by a pig like Volkov. Heat rose in Peyton's cheeks. That's quite a speech. I do not make speeches, I make observations. The restaurant was tucked into a brick building that looked like it had been there since the Soviet Union was still a thing. Inside, it was warm and dim, with heavy curtains and the smell of slow-cooked meat. The owner, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes, greeted Oscar in rapid Russian and led them to a private room in the back. Over plates of pelmeni and dark bread, Oscar laid out the situation. Volkov was making moves, quiet ones but moves nonetheless, poaching some of Oscar's business contacts, spreading rumors about weakness, testing boundaries. He will escalate, Oscar said, pouring vodka into 2 small glasses. It is his nature, and when he does. Not for violence, Volkov is not that reckless, but for leverage, to embarrass me, to prove a point. So what do you want me to do? Hide? No, I want you to live your life, but be aware, be careful, and most importantly, he slid one of the vodka glasses toward her. I want you to understand that you are not alone in this. Whatever happens, I will be there. Peyton picked up the glass, the vodka sharp in her nose. You don't even know me. Why are you doing this? Oscar lifted his own glass, studying the clear liquid. My father used to say that a man's character is revealed not in how he treats his equals, but in how he treats those who can do nothing for him. You can do nothing for me, Peyton. You have no power, no connections, no leverage. You are simply a woman who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And yet, you did not ask for my help. You did not beg or manipulate. You simply locked your doors and waited to see what would happen. That is dignity, that is strength. And in my world, those qualities are so rare they are worth protecting, even at cost to myself. They drank. The vodka burned going down, warm and sharp. I still don't understand your world, Peyton said. I hope you never do. It is not a good world. But it's yours. Yes, it is mine, but that does not mean I am proud of it. Over the next hour, Oscar told her things. Not everything, she could tell he was being careful, but enough. Enough to understand that he was what people called a Bratva vor, a thief-in-law, a title that sounded romantic but meant he was part of an organization built on violence and loyalty in equal measure. He controlled shipping contracts, construction unions, luxury imports, legitimate businesses with illegitimate foundations. I did not choose this life, he said, refilling their glasses. It chose me, my father. His father before him. In Russia in the old days, you were born into your role and you fulfilled it or you died. I chose to fulfill it. Do you have family? Peyton asked. Something flickered across his face, gone too fast to read. I have an organization that is family enough. That's sad. Perhaps, but it is safe. Family of blood makes you vulnerable. Family of choice makes you strong. I don't believe that. You do not have to. You have actual family, yes. Peyton. Mother in Atlanta. 2 brothers, both married with kids, were not close but were there for each other. That is good. You should protect that distance. The less they know about this situation, the safer they are. The words sent a chill through her. You think Volkov would go after my family? No, but I do not take chances, and neither should you. They left the restaurant as the sun was setting, painting Brighton Beach in shades of orange and purple. In the car, the silence was different, more comfortable, like they'd crossed some invisible line from strangers to something else. I will have my driver take you home, Oscar said. And Peyton, thank you. For what? For listening, for not running, for being stronger than you needed to be. She wanted to say something meaningful, something that matched the intensity of the moment. Instead, she just nodded, and he seemed to understand. Her apartment felt different that night. Not safer exactly, but less alone. She made tea, opened her laptop, and tried to focus on work. But her mind kept drifting back to the restaurant, to the way Oscar had looked at her when he talked about strength and dignity. She barely knew him. Didn't trust him, not really. But there was something there, some connection she couldn't name, something that felt inevitable and dangerous in equal measure. 2 days later, Volkov made his move. Peyton was coordinating a corporate retreat in Westchester, a 3-day event for a pharmaceutical company's executive team. She'd been on site since morning, managing caterers and AV techs and the million small details that made an event run smoothly. She was in the hotel's business center, printing updated schedules when a man approached. Mid-30s, expensive suit, friendly smile. Peyton Richardson? Yes. I'm Marcus Chen, VP of Operations. Just wanted to say you're doing an amazing job. Everything's running so smoothly. Thank you, I appreciate that. Actually, I wanted to ask your advice on something. We're planning a bigger event in the fall, and I'd love to pick your brain about venues. Do you have a few minutes? It seemed harmless, normal. Peyton followed him to a quiet corner of the lobby, and they talked about venues and capacity and budget considerations. He was charming, professional, asking. And then he said, "You know, a mutual friend recommended you. Dmitry Volkov says you're the best in the business." Every nerve in Peyton's body went on alert. "I've met Mr. Volkov once briefly. I wouldn't say we're connected." Marcus smiled, and it didn't reach his eyes. "Oh, he speaks very highly of you. In fact, he wanted me to extend an invitation. He's hosting a private event next month and would love to have you coordinate it, exclusively. Name your price." He thought you might say that, so he wanted me to assure you that this would be a very lucrative opportunity. 6 figures for one night's work, and all you'd have to do is show up, look beautiful, and make sure his guests are happy. The way he said it made Peyton's skin crawl. This wasn't about event coordination. This was about something else entirely. "Please tell Mr. Volkov I appreciate the offer, but I have to decline." Marcus's smile faded. "He's not a man who handles rejection well, Miss Richardson. Neither am I, so perhaps you should reconsider." He stood, smoothed his suit, and walked away, leaving Peyton standing there with her heart racing. She called Oscar from the parking lot. He answered on the first ring. "What happened?" She told him everything. His silence on the other end was somehow more frightening than any angry outburst would have been. "This Marcus Chen," Oscar said finally. "Did he touch you?" "No." "But the way he looked at me. I understand. Where are you now?" "Still at the hotel. I have another day and a half on this job." "You will finish it, but you will not be alone. I am sending Alexei and Mikhail. They will stay close, but you will not see them unless necessary, and when the job is complete, you will come to my house." "Your house?" "Yes, we need to talk face to face about next steps. This has gone beyond simple protection. Volkov is escalating, and you need to understand what that means." "Oscar, trust me, Peyton, please, just this once, trust me." She closed her eyes, feeling the world she'd built so carefully starting to crack. "Okay. Good, finish your work, be brilliant, as I am certain you are, and when it is done, my driver will be waiting. I will text you the address." The rest of the event passed in a blur. Peyton saw them occasionally, the 2 men Oscar had sent. They were good, blending into the background, just 2 more hotel guests. But she felt their presence, felt the invisible barrier they created. When the event wrapped and the last client left happy, Peyton found the black Maybach waiting in the hotel's circular drive. The driver, the same one from before, opened the door without a word. The drive took 90 minutes, heading north into Westchester County. They turned off the highway onto increasingly private roads, until finally pulling through a gate that looked like it could withstand a military assault. Oscar's house was not what she expected. Not a mansion, exactly, but a compound. Modern architecture hidden behind old-growth trees, all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows that somehow managed to feel both open and secure. He was waiting at the door, wearing dark jeans and a black sweater, more casual than she'd ever seen. Made him look younger, more human. "Welcome," he said simply, and led her inside. The interior was stunning, minimalist but warm, with art that looked museum quality and furniture that somehow balanced comfort with elegance. A fire burned in a massive stone fireplace, and through the windows she could see grounds that stretched into forest. "You live here alone?" Peyton asked. "Mostly. I have staff, but they are discreet. Tonight it is just us. I wanted privacy for this." He poured wine, something red and expensive, and they sat in the living room with the fire crackling. "Volkov is playing a longer game than I anticipated," Oscar said. "This approach through Marcus Chen, it is strategic. He is trying to compromise you professionally. If you take his offer, you are in his debt. If you refuse, he paints you as difficult, damages your reputation. Either way, he wins. So what do I do? You let me handle Volkov." More importantly, you accept that your life has changed. You cannot go back to the way things were, not safely. Peyton set down her wine glass, anger rising. You're saying I have to give up my career, my independence, because some Russian mobster has a grudge against you. No, I'm saying you need to adapt. We need to adapt together. What does that mean? Oskar stood, paced to the window, his reflection ghostly against the darkness outside. It means I am off. You can walk away. I will ensure Volkov understands you are no longer connected to me, and he will likely lose interest. You will be free, but you will also be alone. Or what? He turned to face her, and the look in his eyes was so intense Peyton forgot to breathe. Or you stay. You accept my protection fully. You let me into your life, and I let you into mine, not as a transaction, not as strategy, but as something real. You mean like a relationship? I know you better than you think. I know you are strong and stubborn and brave. I know you refuse to be intimidated, even when you should be. I know you care about your work, about doing things right, about being someone your family can be proud of. And I know that when I think about Volkov or anyone else touching you, hurting you, something in me goes cold and violent in a way I have not felt in years. Peyton stood, her legs shaky. That's not love, that's possession. Perhaps it starts as possession, but it could become something more if we let it. This is insane. Yes, completely insane, but also true. I am not a good man, Peyton. I have done things that would horrify you. I operate in a world where violence and loyalty are the same currency. But with you, I want to be better. You make me want to be better. She should have run, should have demanded he take her home immediately. But instead, she walked toward him, drawn by something she couldn't name. If I stay, she said quietly, what happens? You continue your life, but within my protection. Your career, your apartment, your freedom, all intact. But you also become part of my world. You meet my people. You understand the reality of what I am. And when the time comes, when Volkov makes his final move, you trust me to keep you safe. And us, this thing between us, we let it develop. I am not asking you to love me, Peyton. I am asking you to give this, whatever this is, a chance to become something real. She was close enough now to see the silver threading through his hair at his temples, close enough to see the faint scar on his jawline. Close enough to realize that this man, this dangerous, powerful, complicated man, was looking at her like she was something precious. One condition, Peyton said. You tell me the truth about everything. Who you are, what you do, all of it. No secrets. That could be dangerous. I'm already in danger. At least let me understand why. Oskar studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Agreed, no secrets. And so he told her. About growing up in Moscow in the chaos after the Soviet Union collapsed. About his father, a Vor who ruled through fear and intelligence in equal measure. About the initiation, the tattoos that marked him as belonging to a brotherhood that... About the migration to America, the establishment of networks, the careful balance between legitimate business and the shadows that funded it. He spoke for hours, and Peyton listened, her whine forgotten. It was terrible and fascinating in equal measure, a world so far from her own experience it might as well have been another planet. I do not kill for sport, Oskar said as the fire died to embers. I do not harm innocents, but I enforce debts. I maintain order in circles where law does not reach. I protect what is mine and I destroy what threatens it. Does this frighten you? Yes, Peyton admitted, but not the way you think. I'm not afraid of you. I'm afraid of what wanting you might cost me. He moved then, crossing the space between them in 2 strides, his hand coming up to cup her face with a gentleness that contrasted everything he'd just told her. It will cost you your peace of mind, your certainty about it, your belief that the world is simple, but it will also give you something precious. Safety, honesty, and this. He kissed her, and it was nothing like Peyton expected. Not aggressive or claiming, but questioning, seeking permission even as he took it. His lips were warm and firm, and when she kissed him back, she felt something in her chest crack open, some defense she'd been maintaining without realizing it. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Oskar rested his forehead again. Stay tonight, not for anything but sleep and conversation. Let me show you that this life I am offering is not all darkness. She stayed, slept in a guest room that was larger than her entire apartment, in sheets that felt like silk. And in the morning, she woke to find Oskar making breakfast in a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a design magazine, wearing the same jeans and sweater, looking almost normal. I make excellent blinny, he said by way of greeting. They ate on the terrace overlooking the grounds, and for a little while Peyton could almost forget that the man serving her perfect thin pancakes with jam was also a Vor, a thief-in-law, someone who lived in a world of violence and shadow. Almost. What happens now? She asked over coffee. Now we continue. You go back to work. I handle Volkov, and we see where this goes. But Peyton, you should know, the moment you walked through my door last night, you became mine in a way Volkov will recognize. He will see it as an escalation. Things may get worse before they get better. How much worse? Hard to say, but I will not let him touch you. That is my promise. Whatever it costs, whatever I have to do, he will not touch you. The cost came due 3 weeks later at an event Peyton was coordinating for a law firm's anniversary celebration. She was in the hotel ballroom, directing the setup of a champagne tower, when she felt it again. That shift in the air that meant danger was walking in. Dmitry Volkov entered flanked by 6 men, all of them radiating barely controlled violence. The hotel staff scattered. The caterers stopped what they were doing. And Peyton, standing in the center of the ballroom in her professional black dress and heels, felt the world narrow to this single moment. "Miss Richardson," Volkov said, his smile sharp as broken glass. "How lovely to see you again. I understand you have been spending time with my old friend Oscar. I wanted to congratulate you personally." "Mr. Volkov, you need to leave. This is a private event." Of course, I am leaving. But first, a small message for Oscar. Tell him that I know exactly how much he cares for you. Tell him that such affection is a weakness in our world. And tell him that I am no longer interested in you as leverage. I am interested in you as punishment." He turned to go, then paused. "Oh, and one more thing, the law firm you are working for tonight, they have just lost their biggest client, me. They will of course blame you, the coordinator who somehow attracted the attention of Russian criminals. Your reputation will be quite damaged, I think. Unfortunate." He left, and Peyton stood there, shaking with rage and fear in equal. Before she could even process what had just happened, her phone rang. Oscar. "He was just there," Oscar said, not a question. "What did he say?" She repeated everything. Silence on the other end, the kind of silence that felt like a storm gathering. "Come to me now, leave the event. I can't just abandon my clients. Your clients are about to fire you anyway if Volkov told the truth about their accounts. Leave, Peyton. This is no longer about your career." She wanted to argue, but the look in Volkov's eyes had been too real, too hungry. She told her assistant she had a family emergency, grabbed her coat, and headed for the exit. The black Maybach was already waiting. When she arrived at Oscar's compound, she found it transformed. Men in suits patrolled the grounds. The casual atmosphere of her previous visit was gone, replaced by something that looked like a military operation. Oscar met her at the door, pulled her inside, and kissed her hard before she could say a word. When he released her, his eyes were blazing. "Tell me you are not hurt." "I'm fine, scared but fine." "Good, stay that way. You will remain here until this is finished." "Finished how?" He led her to his office, a wood-paneled room with maps and screens and the feel of a command center. "Volkov has made his position clear. He is no longer interested in embarrassing me. He wants. And war he will have." "Oscar, no, there has to be another way." "There is no other way. He threatened you directly, called you punishment. In our world, that is a declaration. If I do not respond with overwhelming force, I am weak, and weak men do not survive." Peyton grabbed his arm, forcing him to look at her. "I don't want you to hurt people because of me. I am not hurting people because of you. I am protecting what is mine because that is who I am." "You think I would let Volkov walk into your life and make threats? You think I would allow him to damage your reputation, your career, your peace of mind, and simply accept it? No, this ends now. What are you going to do?" "What I do best. I am going to remind everyone in this city why you do not cross Oscar Medvedev, and then I am going to remove Volkov from the board." "You mean kill him?" Oscar's expression softened slightly. "No, I mean send him home. Back to Russia, where his reach is limited and his ambition can be someone else's problem. But to do that, I need to take away his power here. His businesses, his connections, his money. I will dismantle his empire piece by piece until he has no choice but to leave or submit. How long will that take? With the right pressure, 3 days, maybe 4, but you will stay here where you are safe, no arguments." She wanted to argue anyway, but the look in his eyes stopped her. Not the man who made blinny or spoke softly about dignity and strength. This was the Vor, the thief-in-law, the king of a dark kingdom. And God help her, she loved them both. The next 3 days were the longest of Peyton's life. She stayed in Oscar's compound while he disappeared into his war. He would return late at night, exhausted, sit with her in the living room, and brief her on progress in terms carefully stripped of violence. Volkov's shipping contracts were terminated. His construction permits were delayed indefinitely. His allies received visits from federal investigators about tax irregularities. His money dried up. His influence evaporated. It was systematic, ruthless. Brilliant. On the fourth day, Oscar came home early. He found Peyton in his library reading, and he looked lighter somehow, less burdened. "It is done," he said simply. "Done. Volkov accepted my terms. He returns to Russia within the week. His operations here will be absorbed by others, divided, neutralized. He will not bother you again or me." Relief flooded through her. No one died. No one died. Some people were hurt financially and otherwise, but no blood was shed. You should know that restraint was for you. Normally, I would not be so gentle. Peyton set down her book and stood. "Thank you. Do not thank me for protecting you. That is simply what I do." He crossed to her, gathered. "But you should know, this changes nothing about the fundamental problem. You are still the woman I care for. That still makes you a target, not from Volkov, but from anyone who might wish to hurt me. So the question remains, what do you want to do?" "I want to stay," Peyton said, the words surprising her even as she spoke them. "With you, in whatever form this takes, I want to try. It will not be easy. Nothing worthwhile ever is." He kissed her then, deeply, thoroughly, with the kind of intensity that spoke of promises and possession in equal measure. And when they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Peyton realized she'd made her choice. The world she knew was gone. The safety of her old life was an illusion she could no longer maintain. But in its place was something new, something dangerous and real and utterly alive. In the weeks that followed, Peyton learned to navigate Oscar's world. She met his lieutenants, his business partners, the people who made his empire function. She attended dinners where the conversation was in Russian and the subtext was in threat and loyalty. She learned to read the room, to understand when violence was being discussed in polite terms, to recognize the difference between genuine allies and temporary arrangements. And through it all, Oscar was there, teaching her, protecting her, loving her in ways that were possessive and gentle in equal measure. Her career changed. She couldn't coordinate events for unknowing clients anymore, couldn't pretend to be just a normal woman planning normal functions. So instead, she pivoted, became the coordinator for Oscar's world. The woman who planned the gatherings where empires were discussed, where deals were made, where power was displayed. It was different work, darker work, but it was also more real, more honest. 6 months after Volkov's departure, Peyton and Oscar stood on the terrace of his compound, watching the sun set over the property. She wore a dress he'd bought her, midnight blue silk that made her skin glow. He wore his standard dark suit, though he'd removed the jacket and rolled up his sleeves, conceding to the warmth. "Do you regret it?" he asked quietly. "Choosing this life?" Peyton considered the question. Thought about what she'd lost, the simplicity, the safety, the belief that she could navigate the world alone. And what she'd gained, a partner who would move heaven and earth to keep her safe, a purpose that felt meaningful even in its darkness, and a love that was complicated and fierce and absolutely real. "No," she said finally. "I don't regret it, but ask me again in 20 years. Oscar smiled, rare and genuine. "In 20 years, I will still be asking. And you will still be surprising me with your answer." He pulled her close, and they stood there as the light faded, two people from completely different worlds who had somehow found a way to build a world of their own. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't safe. But it was theirs, and in the end, that was enough. Because some love stories begin with chance meetings and casual coffee dates. But others begin with danger and defiance, with a choice to step into the darkness, because the alternative is losing something precious. Peyton Richardson had never dreamed of falling for a king whose kingdom was built on secrets, power, and blood. But now that she had, she understood something fundamental. The strongest foundations are often built on the most dangerous ground, and she was ready for whatever came next. Hey, loves, this story isn't about power or control. It's about the moment you realize that walking away is safer, but staying is honest. If you stayed until the end, thank you for sharing this journey with me. I'll be back soon with another story. Until then, take care of yourself. Bye.